We are here at the Fresno Athletic Training Center with former paramedic and fitness trainer Jesse Pichardo.
You don't really need to be, in my opinion, super fit to maintain a job in EMS. Meaning you don't have to be able to run like a 5 or 6 minute mile. You do, if you want to stay pain-free, you need to be physically strong. Because when you think about what you do, you go on calls, even if it's a priority 5, you're moving grandpa and grandma across, reaching over, and if you're physically weak, you're vulnerable. If you're glued up with either your hips or your shoulders, right? You can't move your shoulders, you're at risk.
So with that being said, why don't you show us a few things?
All right, let's get to it. One of the exercises or muscles of your body that you really want to make stronger are your glutes. The glutes is your power zone, all right? And so one of the simplest exercises you can do, because everybody has a bench or a chair or a couch, are hip hikes. All right, so as you're doing hip hikes, one of the things you want to make sure you're doing is you're keeping a good spinal alignment. So as your hips flex and your butt comes towards the ground, your chest should also come forward. And as you extend at the hips and go into full hip extension with butt and glutes squeezed, you should be looking at the ceiling. That's version 1, and I feel like anybody should be able to do that. If that's easy for you, then what you can do is take one leg, the tib of your leg, go right across your femur, and then start to flex and extend at the hip. That's a single leg version, a little more challenging, but again, just as effective in terms of strengthening the glutes. Okay, the couch stretch. When you kind of look at the couch stretch, well, first of all, if you don't have a couch, you can use a wall, and sometimes a wall is even better. And what you want to do is basically put your knee as close as you can to the wall. Your foot is up against the wall, and the wall kind of gives you feedback. In other words, you can't push your leg through a wall. And then what's important, two important things with this is that you flex or squeeze your glute and kind of lean back, not in the lower back, but at your pelvis. And I think it's important that if you are straining, in other words, you're like, that's not good either. Back off, don't go into like pain mode. It might be uncomfortable, but try to stay out of that where, in EMS we always quantify pain. Stay out of like 5 or above. Again, it might be a little uncomfortable, especially if you're kind of glued up and tight in the hip flexors. So it is an aggressive, or can be an aggressive mobility exercise to do. And if it's too aggressive, I have people kind of stand up and then I'll have an inclined bench and I'll have them put their knee. And most people can do that. Again, the important parts are squeeze your glute, lean back, and most people will feel it in the hip flexor and or the frontal quad. If you have just 5 minutes, then take 5 minutes. You could pick one routine and do it for 2.5 minutes per side. But ideally, 2 minutes per mobilization. Okay, the other one that I do that again I think anybody can do, at least most EMS people can do, and that's like the elevated pigeon, where your knees flex, your shin tib fib is perpendicular to your torso, and you're standing upright. And what happens is if you have really tight hips, your knee will flex up almost to the sky. And then eventually the tissue starts to relax and you can kind of move your knee down, and you'll feel it in the piriformis and sometimes glute med. And that is a wonderful stretch for EMS people to do. Another mobilization that people can do, you could do this probably at one of the posts with a clean carpet, is get on all 4. You basically take one leg, extend it behind you, and then bring the leg to the opposite side, so that if you're on all 4 and you take your right leg, extend your right knee, and then put it behind the left leg. You'll feel it usually in kind of your gluteus and a little bit of your IT band. That is a wonderful stretch. And you can make that dynamic. You can go back and forth. These are things you should do every day, even whether you come to work or not, because even though you're not coming to work, your tissue still goes on. And so the reason you want to do these is that if you stay mobile, you can access the big muscles in your body. If you're glued up, your body's going to compensate. It will find a way to, if you have, for example, tight wrists, you'll use your shoulder for certain movements. And it's the same with your hips. If you have tight hips, your lower back's going to come into play, and then you're at risk for injury.
Obviously, this is just the beginning of your strength and mobility journey. This is exercises and workouts that should be done every single day. In our future episodes of The American Way, we're going to give you some more mobility and strength training tips to hopefully keep you safe and prevent you from having an injury while working. Thank you for watching another episode of The American Way.